Excuse me, I thought you looked really nice. I just wanted to say hello.
Hi.
Are you like Spanish?
No. I've been here for 3 weeks, but I'm leaving since tomorrow morning.
Oh, you're leaving?
Yes.
My name's Ian.
Ian.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Another team.
Yes.
I was just wondering if you wanted to go for a coffee.
Coffee, yes.
There's actually a Nick Cafe Nero like up the sides.
Yeah.
What would you like? Hi guys, it's Iain Myles here, and so today I thought I'd talk to you about something slightly different to the usual. Now, I really wanted to talk to you about first dates, and I'm not talking about the TV show, hell no. What I'm talking about is, the question of who should pay on that first date, because there always seems to be a raging debate on, who should pay on the first date, the guy or the girl. Now, what do you think? Well, look, let me tell you first, let me start by telling you a little story. Okay, it was a hot summer's day in London, and we're going back a few years now. Now, I was actually on my way to train a guy for some daytime approaches around Oxford Street. But look, I was a little early, so I basically decided to step into a coffee shop to get one of those iced coffees to, just kind of cool me down a little bit. So as I'm about to, reach the till, there was a couple, right in front of me with a load of shopping bags, and they were literally, clearly, on a shopping spree. And I suppose it kind of caught my eye because the girl, she was really, really gorgeous. She was really pretty, and she had this really long kind of wavy blonde hair, and with these tiny kind of skimpy shorts with a bum just kind of out there for the whole world to see. And the guy actually looked decent himself, and he was quite down to earth. Now, he gave off this city boy type vibe as he was wearing these chinos and he had the shirt on. I guess there was something just about his mannerisms which gave this off. So anyway, look, I'm queuing behind them, and they order their drinks, and the girl takes out her wallet to pay. And it's funny because the guy is so fast to reject her kind gesture that he immediately waves his hand at her and he starts taking out his wallet from his pocket. And then the girl just comes back at him and says how it's unfair on him as he bought her all of her clothes on that day. But the guy just ignores her. He waves his hand at her again whilst he's making his way to the card reader. I actually found it really funny, and I found it really amusing just watching these two, because the guy was clearly putting pressure on himself, and unnecessarily. I mean, the girl wants to pay, for Pete's sake. Listen to her, will you? So at the end, the girl agrees to it, but the energy that I got from them just didn't seem right. Now, it would be interesting to see how long that relationship lasts, I kind of thought to myself. And this isn't something that the guy just decides to do out of the blue. He doesn't miraculously just wake up and he starts paying for everything that the girl buys. No, this sort of behavior actually stems from the moment a guy and a girl actually start dating. Now, it doesn't just come out for no reason, and we can even trace its origins all the way back to when a guy and a girl, go onto their first date together. Now, we can trace it back to when they order their first drink on their very first date. I mean, basically, I would put my money, I would put my life savings on the guy paying for the girl on their very first date together, because it's clearly that provider type frame that he's established from that very beginning of their relationship together. And so this nicely leads on to my next question: who then should pay on that first date? Now, a lot of you are probably thinking that it should be 50-50, and the bill should be split evenly between the man and the woman, and there's no question about that. And I can see where you're coming from, and I completely understand you, because you don't feel like it will be sustainable for you in that long run, paying for that bill each time. And it just doesn't feel like you'll be respected in the long run either. However, look, I must say that I disagree with this thinking, but only when it comes to that first date. Now, I disagree that it should be split evenly down the line, and I'll explain why in a moment. Look, I'm not a feminist, and neither am I here to preach any sort of red pill ideology to you. No, the stuff that I'm going to tell you is based on real life life experiences from being on hundreds upon hundreds of dates. Now, it's real life stuff, not something that, I've just woken up and I've felt like talking about. So I'll try to be as objective about this as I can, because look, I actually go out, unlike certain marketeers online, and none of what I say is theoretical or ideological in the very slightest. You see, it's the guy who should pay on that first date, or at least be prepared to pay on the first date. Look, I also stress the prepared part because, look, there's a difference. So the guy should be prepared to pay because this is part and parcel of a grander strategy. It forms part of an enlarged kind of dating strategy. You need to have a strategy in place in order to win the girl over. But look, don't worry, let me explain. You see, offering to pay for that first coffee, or for the first drink is fine. And this should be part of your game plan. So quit resenting the financial part, okay? And also, if you think that you can't afford to pay £5 or, $7 for a coffee, then I'd really think about what you're doing in life. I'd think about sorting your life out first and getting yourself a job, because anyone should be able to afford that. Come on, there's no excuse. So offering to pay for the first drink should be part of the strategy, as it's only then that you can begin to gauge how interested she is in you. Now, it's exactly how I explained in the story with that couple. You can find out how willing she is to invest in the interaction, as look, there's nothing to say that she wouldn't be willing to pay for that bill. You'd be surprised, because an overwhelming number of women are actually open to paying for the entire bill outright, especially when they're really attracted to you. So definitely offer to pay for that first coffee and just see how she responds. Now, if she doesn't budge, then fine, and so be it. That is no big deal either. And you can tell her to get the next 100 rounds. This is obviously a joke, so you need to communicate it in a light-hearted way. But don't expect her to literally get the next 100 rounds. That's not the point. However, look, more often than not, if she likes you, she will invest into you too, and she will pay for the following round of drinks. Now, that's also assuming that she has a job and she's not a broke student, because if you take out a university student, for example, they tend to be more broke. So don't have high expectations in those sorts of situations either. Just try to understand their circumstances as much as you can, because this will help you in assessing how genuinely interested they are in you. Now, as I said, offer to pay for that first round of drinks or coffee, whatever it is you're doing, and just observe and just see how she responds. The problem with this who pays on the first date argument really originates from the fact that so many guys overcomplicate the logistics of the first date. The classic example being that the guy will typically arrange a dinner date at a really expensive restaurant somewhere, followed by ridiculously overpriced drinks. I mean, the sheer thought of it makes me shiver, and in fact makes me want to just shoot myself, because it's just so cliche, it's uncreative, and it's just so materialistic, not to mention the damage that it will do to your bank account the next day. So you would naturally feel like there's a strong case to split that bill down the middle. But why on earth would you put yourself in this situation and dig yourself such a hole when you don't even know what the girl's like, or whether she will even appreciate your efforts? Do this for a girlfriend that you actually get along with. Okay, you obviously don't have a girlfriend yet, but you kind of get what I mean. Do it for someone who appreciates it, and definitely invest in that type of person. But if it's a stranger, think twice, my friend. It's time that you evaluate your dating game. So think about toning it down a few notches and really do opt for a simpler and a more discreet first date. Now, I always tell my guys to take their girls for drinks at a cocktail bar or something like that. Even a coffee date would work too, but I prefer drinks because of the sexual undertones to it, and it's just so much more relaxed, it's so much more chilled, and it relieves so much pressure from the both of you, from you and from your girl. And most importantly, you will never ever come across that dilemma of who should pay on the first date. You can simply play it as I suggested already. You can offer to pay for that first round and just see how she responds. And of course, there are girls out there whose eyes will just light up to milk that situation without a doubt. There are girls out there who will want to use you to pay for the rest of the night. And you have to just assess this, and you have to kind of really understand that situation, her situation, before you jump the gun to making any sort of conclusions. You have to ask yourself, is she trying to use me, or is she simply, I don't know, broke? Because there is a difference between the two. And also, look, there could be a cultural misunderstanding here too. It could be that her culture and the men have historically always paid for her on those dates. So try to figure it out as much as you can and decide whether she's the type of girl that you want to go for. You know, if she's trying to use you for the rest of the night, it's likely because you've been far too nice with her from that very outset, or you've just been a bit too submissive. So have a think about it. Have a think about what you did wrong, and have a think about working on your confidence levels. But look, I hate making bold generalizations, because there will always be women out there who will do that to every other guy they meet too. And maybe, you know, you're not to blame for anything too either. So don't be too harsh on yourself if it backfires with her, because in time you will learn to understand the situation better. Just move on to the next girl and keep the faith. There are amazing women out there, trust me. And coming back once again to the point of the logistics of the first date, it also doesn't matter how hot she is. You know, don't feel like you need to justify yourself because of her beauty or looks, you know, by taking her to a dinner date or something like that. Get out of that mindset, for God's sake, because it's going to limit you in the long run. I've taken so many super attractive girls to the simplest of venues, and they loved it, and they had the best time because, you know, they enjoyed my company, not because they were impressed by, I don't know, where I took them. It's funny, I even remember once entering into this high-end private members club back in London. I remember walking past this couple who were both dressed up like they were literally movie stars. The girl was incredibly attractive. I just couldn't put a finger on, you know, where she was from. She looked so exotic. And I remember thinking how cliche the whole thing looked. I mean, you know, they were surely boyfriend and girlfriend in my eyes. Please God. So anyway, as the night came to a close, I get my jacket and I find myself leaving the club, and I see this girl standing there, you know, outside the club all alone. And it looked like she was just waiting for a taxi or waiting for someone to come. And I kind of like slowly walked past her, and then I just thought to myself, you know, to hell with this, I'm gonna approach her. So I started talking to her, and she kind of stumbles towards me to hear what I'm saying. And it turns out that the guy that she was with was her first date. I just couldn't believe it. It's absolutely ridiculous. And the guy had actually ditched her and had left her for the night, probably because, you know, he was trying too hard. So to cut a long story short, we started making out there and then, and we hung out for the rest of the night. It was just awesome. So just stay away from those dinner dates, will you? They are cursed, and you're not going to do yourself any favors. But there's one other thing that I haven't really touched on or explained properly in relation to the guy paying on that first date, which I probably should have brought up before. You kind of need to understand the way in which that female psychology works too, and you need to develop your game plan around this. You need to understand that women operate slightly differently to men, in the sense that women like it when a man makes them feel special, okay? And I'm sorry, if you want to neglect this, and if you choose to ignore this fact, then you're not going to have an easy ride, and you know, you're really going to struggle getting success with women. But look, it's not as bad as it seems, not at all. You still don't need to take her on that fancy first date. We're not going back to our old ways, no. All I'm saying is that this is the reason why I advocate that the guy pays on the first date, okay? Asking to split the bill 50-50 is just so crude, and it's devoid of any sort of emotion, and your lady will feel like she's at a business meeting. It's really not the impression that you want to make, and you're not going to make her feel special in the very slightest. She's not going to like you, man. So to avoid any of this, go by the strategy that I've already talked about and offer to pay for that first round of drinks. You just have to accept that women are programmed differently to men, so you can't treat it like, you know, you're hanging out with your guy mates. Be smart about it, be savvy and play by the rules, but also always try to understand the whole situation as best as you can, and never lose your dignity for whatever might seem like a potential short-term win, which in reality is just time spent with the wrong girl. Now guys, this is sadly all I have for you today. We've come to the end of yet another video, but do stay tuned for much more content from me, from Annabella and from Emre. Also, do let me know what your thoughts are on this and who should pay on the first date. Do you think the guy should pay, or do you think that the girl should pay, or do you think that it should always be evenly split down the middle? Now, I'm really curious to know what you think, so do keep me posted and put your comments and put your experiences right down below. So I hope you enjoyed watching, and I shall see you next time.